Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mr. Huff, and I want to go over some presentation feedback. I've done presentations in the last 2 weeks in every class where you have presented to your classmates, and I have taken a few hundred comments and feedback portions so that we can kind of learn what good presentations look like. So this is the feedback from our presentations in all of my classes. First thing, a lot of people, it can be summarized into a short statement that says presentation skills. So presenting is an important thing. One of the things I want to point out first is that when you're presenting, it should be between you and the audience. It's not about the slide behind you. It's about the information you have in your head and the people that you're talking to. So it's real important that you understand your audience, and it's real important that you understand that you are the focus of the presentation, not the pictures and the words behind you. That's one thing you need to get clear. One of the most common pieces of input we had was this: speak up. We need to be able to hear you, so make sure you're speaking clearly and confidently, because if you're whispering, people can't hear you in the back, and it doesn't really help us understand what's going on. So speak up so that we can hear you, and this gets better with practice. All right. Some overall characteristics I want to talk about are these things. Some things that people really appreciated in your presentations. They appreciated it when you were enthusiastic and when you made eye contact with us, and when you were obviously knowledgeable about your subject. You had done enough reading and understood your topic well enough that you could answer questions and you could speak with confidence about it. One of the things that people had trouble with is some of the presentations had trouble separating facts from opinions. So make sure you're able to talk about the facts and make it clear when you're sharing your opinion about something. Another thing people appreciated is that it was clear that you had practiced and had a plan. So, and there again, we're also looking for equal amounts of effort from everybody that worked on the presentation. There were a few that were obviously very lopsided, where one person clearly knew what they were talking about and the other person could only read off the slides. And so obviously they hadn't spent much time practicing and planning. That helps your presentations become better. So there's this kind of weird thing that happens with presentations. If you're planning on doing this as something that someone's going to read, you do need to include a lot of information. However, when you're presenting to a lot of people, it's probably better to have less for us to read and more for you to talk about. But there's this balance of having too little information up on the slides and having too much on the slides. So let's talk about that a little bit. So usually in a verbal presentation, you need to have good pictures that support what you talk about and a few bullet points to remind you about the key points you need to hit. You don't have to have all the data there and all the information, but you do need to be able to look at that and just remind yourself, okay, here's what I need to talk about. If you are presenting to people and you have a slide that's just full of text, it's super hard to read. It's not very useful. And if we're reading it, we're not going to listen to you. So another thing I want to point out is that some of you said, hey, their presentation is not real consistent. Part of it was real full of information, and then other parts were just like a picture. So it should be consistent all the way through. This includes fonts and colors. So it should have a consistent theme, consistent layout, and a consistent amount of information as you progress through your presentation. That also shows us if you've planned for your presentation. Let's use the word flow here. Your presentation should flow from one idea to the next to a conclusion at the end where you tie it up in a tidy bow and answer questions. All right? And let me just reiterate that you should ask your audience to read, or you should ask them to listen, but don't do both. Don't put a big chunk of text up there and expect us to read it as you summarize it. We're not going to listen to you, or we're not going to read it. We're going to miss out. So remember, when you're doing in-person presentations, it's better to have less content up there and improve your communication between you and your audience. I don't really care about spelling if I know what you mean, but that's not the case with your peers. They are bothered whenever you have obvious misspellings that you should have corrected. So make sure to run a spell check and pay attention to those little red lines. Let's talk about humor a little bit. It is good to use humor to capture attention. It is not good to try to make it funny all the way through. We want to strive for professional presentation. You can use humor to kind of get our attention, especially if we've just gone through some real dry statistics or something like that. But you shouldn't try to make us laugh at it. It's not a comedy show, it's a presentation. So use humor in small doses. I'm not saying don't use it, but I am saying don't make that the main thing of your presentation. Be careful about that. Some of you noted that the presentations that were presented didn't answer the questions. They had to do the same research on their topic that you did, and it was very glaring if you didn't cover your bases and just kind of summarized an article instead of like actually wrestling with the content you were supposed to present. So make sure that your presentation covers its bases. Another thing is it needs to be turned in on time and not going, oh yeah, this is not the one I meant to do because I just turned it in like 3 minutes ago. Can we pull that one up? Make sure it's on time. That just makes it look like you're not professional if it's not where it's supposed to be at the right time. And make sure that as you're going through your presentation, you stay on topic. Some of you kind of went off and chased little skinny rabbits and got off topic, and you kind of were missing some of the points that you needed to make because you were off on tangents. So try to stay on topic. Design your slides so it helps you go through your presentation on topic and that you cover your bases. One last thing I want to talk about is some of the presentations went like this. You started strong, and then the further you went, and as you traded back and forth between speakers, your energy level went down and down and down until you weren't interested in what you were talking about anymore, and we certainly weren't interested in what you were talking about anymore. So try to avoid this. If you start out with high energy, maintain it. We also had some people do this. They started with low energy and they stayed right there. Again, people really appreciate it when you are enthusiastic and knowledgeable. So what we really like as an audience is we like some variety. We like some moments of a lot of energy, and we're okay with you slow down a little bit, but then you have some spikes where you pick up energy. It's okay to be dynamic. Dynamic is what we want to see. So that's a little bit about presentation skills. Let me remind you, we like it when you are enthusiastic, you make a lot of eye contact, you're obviously knowledgeable about your topic, it's clear that you have practiced and planned, and that if you're working with a partner, that effort is equal. Thank you for watching.